Well, hello everybody, a very warm welcome to my channel. My name's Louise Savage, Louise Savage Muses. A warm welcome if you're joining me for the very first time, and an equally warm welcome if you are rejoining for my musing slash waffling slash rambling slash whatever they might be. So I am all snuggled up. This is my comfort jumper if ever I'm feeling a bit chilly. It's we've just changed the clocks back in the UK for the end of British summertime, and it means that it goes darker much earlier in the evening. So I've been really caught out. I'm sat here with not with natural light as I was kind of anticipating, but never mind, to just reflect a little bit on the reading that I've done this month. And well, so I haven't read, well I've read loads of books, but not many that I can actually or feel I can actually talk to you about today, because Simon Savage, have been reading the Booker Prize shortlist, and we've been doing our parallel vlogging on that. So there are now, I think this is the fourth week. Maybe one goes out tomorrow as I speak to you. Maybe that's I think that's the fifth one. Anyway, so Simon and I have been reading those, and I've actually finished reading all of them and finished recording my thoughts on all of them. But I don't really want to talk to you about them now, not being rude, but it seems like overlap. And also Simon and I will be making a video where we each select our favourite to win. In a week or so's time we'll be making that. So I feel as though I need to just sort of park those books for the moment. I can say that I think it's a stonking shortlist, and I have really enjoyed, with one possible exception, but even then I think my curiosity got the better of me. I've really enjoyed reading those books. So anyway, and the other thing that I've been doing is reading, I'm in the process of reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I've taken the beautiful cover off by Susanna Clarke. I've taken the beautiful cover off because it is rather beautiful, and I'm not the most careful reader in the world. And I'm reading this in preparation for the absolute privilege of interviewing Susanna Clarke on the 10th of November. I'm rattling through it, thoroughly enjoying it, and hopefully we'll talk to you about that properly when I've finished it. But it's plunged me into this wonderful world of magic and, you know, the Napoleonic Wars, and it's a real hefty, as you can see, hefty tome of a book. But I'm thoroughly enjoying making my way through that. And I'm also reading as well, because it's more portable, The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, which again I've never read before, and again really been bowled over by that. I've only read probably the first 60 or 70 pages, and I've got a long train journey tomorrow, so I'm going to take it with me for that. And I don't normally sort of read lots of books at the same time, but actually I'm quite enjoying that. Depends on my mood, depends on where I am. And again, yeah, I've been really impressed with The Goldfinch. I wasn't a big fan of The Secret History. It didn't. I remember loving the opening and then being disappointed. And I may have mentioned this before. I think it's probably because it's a campus novel, and I'm not particularly keen on that genre. I don't really know why. So I've sort of been curious about reading The Goldfinch because it's, you know, it's had so much. I think it won the Pulitzer Prize. It's had loads of fantastic reviews, but yeah, I wasn't sort of gagging to read it. But Susanna Clarke has chosen it as her backlist Women's Prize choice for our book club. Again on the 10th of November. I mentioned that already. I think I might have done, at Story House in Chester. So yeah, I'm really looking for. It's really fascinating reading that, and then thinking about why she might have chosen it, and you know what I might want to talk to her about in discussing that with her. What a fantastic privilege. If you're not aware of this book club, it's the Women's Prize Book Club official. Simon and I are hosting it. We're going to be interviewing Susanna, and then a series of authors all the way through 2025, once a month. and you're more than welcome to come along and join us live in Chester, but also you can purchase, you don't want to be purchasing, you can purchase tickets online as well, on the Women's Prize website, so that you can watch it. It can be beamed out to you over the marvels of the internet. So there we go. Anyway, enough of that. What else have I been reading this month? So the month started, and it seems like I think it was the 1st of October. I had the privilege of, it might have been the 2nd or 3rd, of interviewing Tracy Chevalier about her new novel, The Glassmaker. And I've got this lovely hardback version here, although it's not the Spreadgers, the Venice Spreadgers one, unfortunately. And I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book, and I thoroughly enjoyed talking to Tracy. She is an amazing woman. And this book, if you love history, if you love Venice, if you love the concept of time travel, you will really enjoy this book. And if you like craft work, a lot of Tracy, in fact I think probably all of Tracy's novels focus on art in some form or other, particularly women making art. And this is the story of Ursula Rosso, who is a young girl at the start of the novel. She falls very unceremoniously into the lagoon. There's a lot of humour in this book, as well as pathos and tragedy and drama, and you name it, it's in here. All human life is in here. And she meets this bead maker and glass beads, and she decides that she's going to start making beads herself. She's growing up in a glass making family, but of course it's the preserve of the men in the household to blow the glass and make the glassware. So you've got this fantastic setting, this wonderful atmosphere of glassmaking in Venice, and the book, she does this really fantastic thing, Tracy, where she whisks us through time. I think it spans 4 centuries, and she uses the metaphor of skimming a stone. And at the beginning of the novel, she invites us to picture, you know, a stone skimming through water, but instead of it skimming through water, it's skimming through time. And that's exactly what her characters do, or at least what Ursula does. So it sounds so weird when you talk about it as a concept, but it works fabulously. So it's as if it starts off, I'm trying to remember what the date is, I want to say 16 something, but I'm probably completely wrong, and I can't remember whether she actually says. I can't see it there. Anyway, it's the Renaissance era, I think. And so you get to know this family that Ursula's living in. You get to know some of the neighbours and the they're not glass mating, the glass making community in Murano, the island where the glass making happens. And you get to know them all. And then suddenly, after sort of 50, 60, 70, 80 years, it depends on the interval, the rug's whisked away, and the whole family is transported, not just the whole family is transported through time. So the family stays the same, even though they are gradually aging, but the surroundings change to fit the period, and it goes right up to practically the present day, and includes the pandemic. And that's one of the things I think that's really interesting. Tracy was writing this during the pandemic, and of course there was a plague in Venice, and so, you know, part of the novel is Ursula's experience of the plague. And so I think, you know, in many ways this novel has a lot to say about the insularity and the behaviour and the sense of entrapment when you're having that experience. I think, you know, it's really makes it super relatable. But the other thing I loved about this book was all the relationships. The sibling relationships are really true to life. There's a lot of bickering, there's a lot of falling out, but there's also a lot of love. There is the most passionate, beautiful love story in here. There are real characters from history who appear. Some of them really sensational. I'm not going to mention because I think it's a bit of a spoiler in a way to say. And as I said before, you know, there are moments where it's laugh out loud funny. There are moments where you are absolutely devastated on behalf of the characters. And I love the kind of the otherworldness as well, because it's historical and because it's on this very unusual place that is surrounded by water, and the mainland is like this distant, far off world. I think it says a lot about the past and about memory and about distance, about how we feel when you know, things are going on in our lives that we feel no one else is relating to or understanding, when we feel trapped. It's just, yeah, well, as you can tell, I really enjoyed this book. And then I read The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry by Rachel Joyce. And I feel such an honour. Why didn't I read this years ago? I read it on a train journey up to Newcastle. And, or did I? No, I read it on a train journey to, that's right, I read it on the train journey to Cambridge and back when I was interviewing Tracy. And I just thought this was, and it was lovely being on a journey, because this novel is about a journey, but it is one of those books that I think is so, what's the word? It's such a quiet, gentle novel in some ways, and so unflashy and yeah, just sort of understated, and yet there is so much in here. I found it a really profound read, and I wasn't expecting that. And again, it's funny, but it's also very sad. There's a lot of loss in here. There's a lot of coming to terms with your past. And Harold's pilgrimage is a real pilgrimage. So what happens is Harold he's retired. He's living with his wife. He and his wife are sort of stuck in this routine and this rut where they don't really communicate. They've been married a very long time, and their lives seem very sad and very conventional and very wooden. And Harold receives a letter from Queenie Hennessy, who he worked with many years before, and she is in a hospice. She's dying, and she's written to Harold, and he decides pretty much there and then, he just sort of puts his shoes on and goes, that he needs to do something. So he goes to post the letter, and he doesn't come back. He sets out on this journey to walk to all the way from down south to the south coast, up to the UK, up to Berwick-upon-Tweed, which is just on the Scottish border. And he's going to make this journey, and it's just wonderful. So you get the story of Harold making the journey, you get the story of his wife at home worrying about where he is and how that all works out, and her relationship with her neighbour, and they're both of them are battling against convention a lot in this novel, and the sort of the impositions that society places on us as human beings. It's a novel about grief, it's a novel about loss, it's a novel about coming to terms with the way that you have behaved throughout your life, and how I'm finding that now. I don't know whether it's something that retirement does to you, but I'm looking back and thinking, why did I do that for so many years? Why did I do this? You know, you start to sort of question your life decisions, I think, and reflect a bit more on your past. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much. But I think it's just the humanity of this book. You come to, well, I came to absolutely love Harold and his wife. There's also a really interesting story around their son, David. And they encounter all these interesting, very interesting, or he encounters all these interesting people on his journey as well. And every single encounter enriches the novel in some way. It's pitch perfect, I think, this novel. I was really bowled away by it. So if you haven't encountered it yet, I really highly recommend it. And I think there are quite a few. I think there's one about Queenie, and there's, you know, yeah, there are 6 novels advertised at the front there. So I just feel as though I've got these little gems, these little sweets to savour, because it was a very quick read. It didn't take me long to read, as I say, just a couple of train journeys, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I read a book that I've been wanting to get my hands on for ages. It was Northwoods by Daniel Mason, and this is he's an American writer. It's set in Massachusetts, and it does a similar thing to Tracy Chevalier's novel. He takes us on a journey through time, but he does it in a different way. he looks at a piece of land in Massachusetts, and it becomes an apple farm. And there's this very famous, very special apple that evolves from the combination of the environment and the wisdom of a human being. This fantastic variety of apple that's much celebrated and much sought after. And but it tells the story of that plot of land and the house, the home on that plot of land. And so the novel is rooted in that place, but we go through time to see the different inhabitants who come and live in that house. And initially it's very basic. It's nothing much more than a primitive shelter. And gradually, over the years, bits are added on and bits are dug down and bits are, you know, I love a good setting, as you've probably realised if you've followed my vlogs for a little while. I really like to be wandering through spaces. I think I like an interesting building, so I really got quite attached to thinking hard about and trying to visualize exactly how this building changed over time. But the other thing that he does is he shows the passage of time, and he roots this novel in history by giving he includes all these sort of, there are ballads, there are photographs, there are historical documents that are all woven into the story. And each family, each group of people who come, they come and they go, but there's always a trace of them that's left behind. So it also kind of shows how the presence of people in a particular place, of human beings in a particular place, even though the next generation or the one after doesn't remember or know who they were, still has an impact. So there are these, it's like, I mean, I don't believe in the supernatural, but it kind of shows how people's sort of ghosts, the ghosts of the people who've lived there, sort of, they don't haunt, but they cascade down through time, and you meet the most amazing cast of characters. There are a pair of twins, female twins, who I absolutely loved reading about, and they have there's a really sort of they're very, very close, and there's a sort of love, it's not quite a love triangle, but there's a real sort of battle, because one of them falls in love, and the threat of them being torn apart through that. There's towards the end of the novel, there's this wonderful story around a man who's schizophrenic and who spends hours recording the woods around the house because he thinks he can see ghosts, and how that sort of affects his relationship with his family, particularly his sister. It's a really interesting exploration of madness, in inverted commas, or psychological disturbance. Just and not just, you don't just meet human characters, you also, you know, there are various beetles, various parasites, various creatures that come, and they're just brought in innocently by, you know, it might be on a log for firewood or something like that. They're brought in innocently into this space and then wreak havoc. You know, they cause Dutch elm disease, or they cause all the chestnut trees to die, or whatever it might be. And on top of all of that, it's just beautiful, beautiful writing. I really love the way that Daniel Mason writes. I did read The Piano Tuner some years ago, and I would say, for me, this is a step up. I thought that was a great book, but this is a step up. This is really sensational. And look at that lovely cover. I just love that. I think it's gorgeous. So yeah, I've been looking forward to reading this, and it says on the front, it's somebody's quote there, I haven't got my glasses on, as epic, and I would say that it is epic in its scope. I think the structure and the interlacing of stories. I mean, it goes right back to Ovid, and the Metamorphoses, and that whole sort of interconnection. I've just found it really engaging. And then finally, I've actually been reading some poetry, and I realised I never really talk about poetry on my channel, and yet I do love reading poetry. And this is a book that I dipped into before. So this is The Kids by Hannah Lowe, and it won, did it win? I know it was shortlisted for the Costa Book Awards some years ago. I think it might have won, can't quite remember. But I think I started reading this because Hannah Lowe was a teacher in still alive, but she doesn't teach anymore, I don't think. She was a teacher in London, and I think all of these poems are sonnets, I could be wrong, and it's like a love song to the job. And I think I was missing the classroom, and I was missing in the autumn, because that's when that's the way the school year runs here. I always, autumn is going back to the classroom, and of course I didn't this year, and it's the first autumn that I haven't. And this book really was just wonderful in putting me back in touch with how important those relationships between teacher and student could be. And what's really clever is that she writes about her own experience as a teacher, but she also writes about her experience as a student and her attitudes towards her teachers. And it's a real mix of positive and negative. But I just absolutely love her poetry, and particularly the way that she can really capture emotion. She can capture motivation. She also she's got a young son, and she sort of, it's a love letter to him and his growing up as well. So yeah, if you haven't come across this before, I really, really recommend it. I think it's a poetry collection that is very, very accessible. It makes you think. It gives you a lot of warmth, and yeah, I just love it. So there we go. That is my October wrap up. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've read some of those books, or even if you haven't, please feel free to comment. I love reading your thoughts, and I'm going to carry on snuggling up this evening, getting used to the darkness out there, which is looking really grim. And I'm going to actually sit and read a few more chapters of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and try not to. I could actually do some exercises while I'm at it, because it is quite a hefty book, but I am loving it. It wears its heft lightly. Take care, everybody.